Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now that you all can see me. And I'm very animated, so I'm sure it'll pay off in the end in some kind of form or fashion. So again, I'm Yolanda Eddins, and I serve as the Director of Community and Parent Affairs for New Paradigm for Education. And everybody calls me Yo, so you will hear me refer to myself in the third party. I know it's weird, but it's okay. When you get grown, you can do what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting nobody. And so I love doing and talking about raising a reader because a lot of people have given up and they don't think it's possible to help your kids to read and, just to want to learn and do better. So we got a lot of information, but I'm going to walk you through some of the parts of it that I think are most critical. And so, Caleb, if you can go to the next slide. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for putting things in the chat and let me know you guys are there. I appreciate that. And just a little background, I've been working in education for about 30 years now, but the thing that I'm most proud of, that is the biggest deal for me, is I'm also a mom. So I've raised 6 kids by myself as a widow. My oldest daughter, crazy, from my womb, just turned 40. Oh my God. 40 in January. We had a bunch of birthdays in January. Hold on, my printer has got a spook in it because it just went off from out of nowhere. Hold on. Don't know what that's about. My oldest daughter just turned 40. My youngest daughter is 25, and I'm a nana. So all the stuff I'm sharing with you, it works then, it works now, and it's gonna work for your kids too. My youngest daughter just turned 25. My oldest granddaughter is 19 and in college, and my grandson is 9, and Honor Rose is 3.5. And so I actually have to, everything that I'm talking about, I still have to put it in practice, not just at work, but at home. And so it doesn't matter how many kids you've raised, you're always going to have one or two that you're going to have to do a little something different with. So I'm going to give you some tips and some strategies. The other thing is, I raised my 2 nieces. Surprisingly, I had them for 7.5 years. But the thing, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, I'm being transparent for a reason, because sometimes you go to things like this, it's like it was good, but you only walked away with 1 or 2 things. I'm going to make sure that you guys get full today. And so I raised my nieces. They required some extra support for a minute while their mom got back on her feet. 1.5, and the other one was going into kindergarten. I got her a month before kindergarten started, and this is the deal. She didn't know how to write her name, and she only knew there was an S in it, and she wrote it backwards. So I'm going to talk to you about how we got her from there and how we got her to where she is now. And so if you could go to the next slide, Caleb. So in this particular session, we're going to discuss how to assist you guys with the tools you need to raise a reader, as well as learning how to incorporate reading at home and during playtime. So let's talk about what the definition is of raising a reader. And so I believe in definitions because sometimes we grow up with the assumption of what a word meant because that's what somebody told us it meant, versus what the real definition is. And please, I appreciate you guys. Please keep putting stuff in the chat. I'm just not able to coordinate my responses, but you will see me engaging in a second. One of the things I wanted to make mention of is raising means to lift or move to a higher position or level. And so what we're going to talk about today is going to make some of you all very uncomfortable because it's going to require some lifting. Like, you're going to have to do some work. This is going to require action. And I know some of us are tired. I know, we hear so much about the pandemic. I don't want to ignore it because this is going to impact some of the things that we got to talk about today. But the truth of the matter is, we got to pull it together. We do. We got to pull it together because while we are sedated, while we are flatlining, our kids aren't learning and they're losing their desire to want to learn and read. And y'all know I'm telling the truth. And it's not anybody's fault, but this is what we're dealing with. So if you can go to the next slide. As Chris said, Kayla, don't be falling asleep on me. And so this particular one, I mentioned it a second ago where we are, but if you look at the faces that you see there, How many that feels familiar? Like if it's not you, it's somebody that you know of and what they're dealing with their kids. And so let me tell you why this is really so difficult. It's not just the pandemic. So in the history of us learning, so think about this for a minute so you understand why the lift and why the weight of it has been so heavy and undescribable. Like most of us are on fumes every single freaking day, right? So look at how these kids are looking. Basically, they got all the supplies and the tools they need in front of them, but it doesn't matter if they're emotionally shutting down. And so I know we hadn't heard about social emotional learning. This is our first time hearing that type of stuff. And now we're able to connect it after all this months about what that means. But let me tell you what we're dealing with. In the history, everybody, I can guarantee you 115%, everybody that's on this call with me today has always gone to school. You say, well, yo, why do you mention that? Guess what? Whether you were out for the summer for a couple months, all of us went to school. Think about it. Since we've been going, since we came in the world, you always went kindergarten, first grade, you went to school. You came home, you went to school. You came home, you went to school. You had a break, you went to school. You had a summer break, you went to school. This has never happened before where nobody goes into a school building. Yeah, that's why this is so freaking crazy. It's never happened before. And guess what? Everybody that's on here has never parented where your kids didn't go to school. Not third, fourth grade. Okay, little people, preschool, I got you. Kindergarten, okay, maybe you didn't believe in kindergarten. First grade, oh, all them babies was going, you get out my house. This has never happened before. Where you parent and your kids don't go to school every day. Okay, skip every day. They don't go to school at all in the building. That's why this is so overwhelming. But guess what? You think it's overwhelming for you? It's overwhelming for them because some of them, that's what they were used to, and that was part of how they coped too. Because that's where their friends, their social, they got teachers that would look at them and see how special they are and who they are. And so go to the next one if you can. So we're going to talk. Is this helping you guys? Like give definition to why you feeling crazy and why it's so hard to freaking parent right now and even teach. And so we're going to help you discover your child's appetite for reading. Like you have to start with the basics. Like this is requiring, and the reason why this is probably going to be one of the most important workshops you've ever gone to in your life for your kids is because you have got to identify what needs to be fixed. So just like if something's wrong and you go to the emergency room, y'all came to the emergency room today. Am I a doctor? We'll see at the end. Am I a specialist? Heck to the yeah, I got you on this one. But they send over a whole trauma team when you flatline it. Our kids, Caleb, go back to the slide before this one. Thank you. Our kids are flatlined academically, emotionally, and you all have to resuscitate them. You all got to show up for stuff like this. I applaud you because this is part of the first piece of gaining more traction in your home so that you want to be involved with it, so that you haven't checked out. So this is the trauma team right here. United Way provided a trauma team to help resuscitate your children so they want to learn again, so they reconnect. And so you can go to the next slide, discover your appetite. And so we're going to talk about how do we discover our kids' appetite for reading. And so there is something that I remember very vividly. I might have been maybe 8 or 9 years old. I'm the eldest of 3 kids. Parents were just regular folks. My dad worked at Chrysler, just normal, regular folks. So what I'm about to tell you doesn't mean that he was mean and, oh my God, how did you grow up like that? No, he had no idea that this would leave an impact on my life. And so I remember what I had on. I remember where I was sitting at the dining room table. I can remember where it was positioned on the plate. I had 2 drumsticks on it. I had mashed potatoes. I remember the butter sitting on top. Can't wait to get into it. And I had peas on my plate. Well, guess what? Yo-Yo didn't like peas. And all of us can relate to where somebody said, you better eat everything on your plate. Well, my dad had no idea the impact that this would leave. And so I remember I picked over everything else and I didn't eat the peas. And he was like, yo, you have to eat those peas. You're not getting up from this table until anybody that happened to, you're not getting up from this table until you eat those peas. And I was like, but I don't like them. They make me nauseous. I feel like I'm gonna throw up when I eat them. And I remember him saying, you're gonna eat those peas. You're gonna sit here until you finish. So now, them peas is cold, right? And I remember, I can still remember the texture in my mouth. And I remember eating them. I remember throwing up twice, eating those peas until I got them down. But this is why I'm mentioning this story. Look how old I am, and I can remember vividly what I had on. And my dad didn't do this to damage me. But guess what? I never ate peas when I got to be grown. I never bought them at the grocery store when I cooked vegetables for my kids. And it wasn't like I said, I'm not going to get peas. I'm not going to. Subconsciously, I suppressed it and I lost my appetite, desire, never wanted them. But guess what happened? I didn't eat them and I didn't feed them to my kids. So if you don't figure, the thing is, why this is so critical, you cannot force your kids to eat. Like you can't, because they'll always. Have you ever tried to give a baby, like I remember carrots, Gerber, and they spit them out because they didn't like it or whatever it was. And I remember the carrots because it always stained the bibs or it would leave a stain on the clothes. And I'd be like, it wasn't even worth it. But they would spit it out. Well, guess what? Kids can't spit out you forcing them to read, but guess what happens? It makes them not want to. And so when you're not forcing them, they don't pick up a book or they don't connect to it comprehensively when they're reading in school because it left the same impact on them that it left with the peas left on me, where they didn't have an appetite for reading. So we need to figure out, what is your son or daughter's appetite for reading, your grandbaby's appetite for reading. So go to the next slide, Kayla. Is this helping somebody? Very good. We need to expose them to a buffet. We need to expose them to what they need to get an appetite for what they want to read. And so, like, when we go to a buffet, this is hilarious. And some of y'all like, will we ever go to a buffet again? Some of them are opening up, so pull back. We're not talking about food, we're talking about books. But when you go to a buffet, have you noticed unintentionally, you get a little bit of everything, but you keep getting more of the thing that you like? Yeah. And guess what? If you find out what your kid's appetite for reading is, they'll go for it even when you're not offering it to them. They'll search it out. You know how they used to send a little scholastic newspapers where you can order the order sheets? They'll bug you. Have you ever had your kids, once they figure out what they like, they'll bug you to buy it even when you don't have the money? They will forget to turn in a project, a book report, or a science thing, but when it comes time and they see that in there, they circle and they try to save their money. They'll go for it themselves even when you're not offering it to them. Yeah. So go to the next slide. We're going to talk about, how do you make this happen? So you got to figure out what is their appetite for reading. And so I'm gonna, for some of us, you say, well, yo, I hear you talking, but guess what? I wasn't good at reading and I didn't like reading either. Did you notice what it did to you because you weren't good at it? You didn't seek it out or you didn't try to do it, and maybe you struggled with it all your life. And have you also noticed, because you weren't good at it or you didn't enjoy it, you don't do it for your kids. You don't buy books for them. You don't read out loud to them because it was some. So this is going to be a very painful conversation for some, but we have to do this in order for this to be a later benefit. So sometimes you have to do a reset. And so my cousin, if you remember back in the day, when kids were born too bow-legged or pigeon-toed, where it was causing issues with them actually walking, or they would trip and fall all the time, they would reset their legs. And I know this sounds brutal, but they would. And now that I'm an adult, I understand it. But I remember my younger cousin, he must have been about maybe 7. He was the youngest in the family, and they were like, we're going to have to reset his legs. And I remember him wearing the flexible metal braces until they straightened up. But guess what? He had them on for a whole year. And I remember people would tease him and all of that. And I'm saying this for a reason, because sometimes a reset can be painful. Sometimes others won't agree and they don't understand it. But if that's what it takes, so let me tell you the benefits of that reset. The benefit is he ended up being a teacher and also being a coach, one of the best coaches for high school basketball yet. But what if he didn't get that reset? He would not have been able to play in college. He would not have been able to coach. And he would have been challenged with also making sure that his son is being looked at by scouts and recruiters all over the country to be in the NBA. And he's not even out of high school. But look at the benefits of the reset. So this is going to be painful for some, because maybe some missed it with you, but we're not going to miss it with our babies, because they need to be resuscitated and they need to be hungry to learn and hungry to read. And so the reset is, the reason why I mentioned that is some of us got to go back to Dick and Jane. So I know I'm dating myself, but back in the day, baby, everybody read. Some people didn't read as fast as the others, but we all read because we started off with Dick and Jane. And it's a repetitive until they would introduce new words on a regular basis. You say, well, yo, my son is he's in the fourth grade. He's not going to want to read Dick and Jane. Well, you got to be more strategic and creative. So you need to be having him read to his younger brothers or sisters. And you say, well, he is the youngest. Well, using Zoom and Facebook Live for everything else, let him read to his cousins who's younger. Because see, what's going to happen is he's going to learn something while he's trying to teach somebody else. So you're also getting at his self-esteem. This is also going to address behavior, because see, I don't have enough time to go into kids who can't read, how their behavior skyrockets off the charts because they're masking for challenges that they're having academically. And so they exert themselves in other kind of way. I remember my niece, I didn't know we were going to have to, I was going to have to put books back in my living room again, because that was one of the things I needed to redo everything and make sure that every opportunity for them to have a book in their hand and be able to start reading and learning was there. I had to start over. And one of the reasons why I'm mentioning her is a little girl never had behavior problems with her. I would get calls from the school. Remember, I told you she went into kindergarten just knowing it was an S in her name and she was writing it backwards. I had to get calls from the school for the first time in my history of parenting saying that we're having a problem. I said, well, what's going on? I don't have problems with her. They said, no, that's not it. They said every time we get to reading a certain thing, she always wants to go to the bathroom. They said, we didn't call you about that, but we had to call you because now she's trying to stay in the hallway. And I said, well, that's not like her. So I started talking to her and I found out how bad it was. And so it was all hands on deck. Everybody in the house took time with her. And I'll talk about the how in a little bit, but we were all working with her to make sure she could get caught up. And then it started getting, I remember in October, they said, well, she's trying to leave out the school building. Now you got a 5-year-old trying to leave out the building because that's how intimidated she was, that she was behind and she couldn't read. That's why some of your kids are giving you behavior issues, because this is at the root of it. But we got to reset today, don't we? And so I got ahead of the game with the other one because I got her early enough to go through all of the phonics, exposing her to words, building her vocabulary, reading to her. So we got her early. So just to let you know, my niece, the older one that was 5 and went into kindergarten only knowing the S and writing it backwards, by the time January came, the latter part of January, we had got her where she was reading. She is now on track. She's in the 11th grade and she has not fell behind, because I don't even have enough time to tell you the unbelievable, just that one reset, how that changed her pathway. The younger one, because we got her early, she is reading 3 grade levels above her grade. By the time she was in the 2nd grade, we were getting calls from the teacher saying, we need you to come up here. I said, well, what's going on? We need you to get some of these books, because she has all these books in her desk and they're falling out and she don't want us to take them out because she got hungry to read. We found out where her appetite was. She said, Auntie Yo-Yo, she would always tell me, I want chapter books. I want chapter books. And we're like, girl, you just learning how to read good. I like the big chapter books. And so she had all these books with words that she didn't know, but that was what her hunger was for, chapter books. She said, I want to read the big book. See, that's the difference. And when you reset something with the one and you start early enough with the other, they get what they need early on. So sometimes you got to start early, and that's what the Dick and Jane will do. I say go back to the basics. You got Incredible Hulk. I put that on there for a reason because I worked in education for a while. Some people would be like, that's not really reading. Put a comic book in their hand if that's going to get them to pick it up and read. You want to find out, what do they respond to? What are they hungry to do all the time? What do they always want to taste? Now, I had issues with Captain Underpants initially because, I'm an old lady. I'm like, that's inappropriate. He in his underwear, and they not boxers. They white, tidy underwear. Those are briefs. And then I realized he has an audience. And I was like, okay, I get it. And so the audience is humor, it's funny, it's adventurous, but who cares so long as they're reading? If they start off with Captain Underpants, their appetite for reading can't always be what you would read. And see, that's where some of us have gone wrong, because we want them to do what we've done, and we want them to eat what we like, and we want them to read what we like. It might be insects, science, and dinosaurs. Buy those books. Let them have it. Y'all need to be going to read so stuff. So I put newspapers in there for a reason, because I remember watching my granddad, and Sundays it was like I would watch them, and they would open the newspaper and pop it open. I remember the smell of it, and I remember when I was old enough to buy my own papers, I felt grown because I could pop it open and sip my coffee. And newspapers are a great way to be able for your late elementary and middle school kids to do better with their reading. So let them, and I love everybody, but I had 6. I was going to 5 schools every day. The job I worked, I was the director. I had to open the building and close the building. You do not get to take a back seat to your kids' education. If you have realized nothing else, if they're going to survive and they're going to thrive, it's hinging on you. Everybody else can't do it, and you don't show up for practice. You got to be there too to help them win. And so that means that I had to figure out, how do I make sure I'm giving my kids my very best, and not giving them films, but I'm giving everybody else 110%. So sometimes I would have my kids read the newspaper to me while I was driving. And that way I got caught up on social issues I didn't have time to read, but that way they got to contribute, like they were giving me something and making a deposit in me. But see, the trick was just to get them to read. And when they got stuck, I knew where their challenges were. So I was able to work with them further on down the road. You can go to the next slide. Caleb, I'm so good. I'm glad you didn't go to sleep on me. I haven't lost you. And so we always want to keep them hungry for more. Like, if you find out what their appetite is for reading, they'll always, my kids would beg to go to the resale store. When I would go there to get clothes, they run to the book department. They run to where the books were. See, that's how you know you found out what their appetite for reading, and you woke them up, and now they're hungry for it. And I hate that Borders have closed. That was our go-to. Borders. Can we just have a moment of silence? Part of the reason they might have closed is because me and my family might have put them out of business. Because I'm not going to lie to y'all, we abused the whole system. We would go in there, and the kids, we would stay in there for hours. And the cool piece about Borders, you didn't have to buy nothing if you didn't want to. And so we would go to the little shop and the little cafe, get our coffee and tea. And I even had pastor friends who said, yo, I'm going to be up there getting ready for my lesson on Sunday, because they had the good thick reference books that they could use that was like 60 something and more dollars, and they didn't want to buy them. I know that's wrong. I'll get dealt with later for telling all the secrets. And then they put them right back on the shelf. You could listen to music, but your kids had a whole area. And just like the library was the other one. We took pictures of when my nieces got their library card. We took pictures at the library when my kids got their library card. It was like a rite of passage. So again, when they're hungry, and so you have to understand, if she wanted to hold books in her desk, we had to make sure she had books around her all the time. And so we had to create the opportunity where that buffet was around all the time. And I'm gonna say her name. And I remember Maya, my youngest niece. I was at work because I would take them to work with me sometime, and she was just pouting, and I didn't know what was wrong with her. I said, well, Maya, what's wrong? She said, I want to do a YouTube video. And I'm thinking, YouTube? We ain't even them kind of people. What you talking about? She couldn't have been no older than 7. I want to do a YouTube. No, she was younger than that. She was 5. I want to do a YouTube video. I said, what for? I want to tell people about borders and they shouldn't be closing. People got to stop it, Auntie Yo-Yo. They got to stop it. But that's because she realized what borders was to her. That was their go-to. So we got to keep them hungry to read. Go ahead to the next one. How do you do this? You got to put books everywhere. You got to put books in the areas that they most frequent. You got to put books, you got to keep them in a car. You say, what kind of books? I can't define that for you. All I know is that you got to start buying buffet of books so that you can figure out what your kids like to read. And then when you figure it out, you got to get more of it. So if you got all this stuff, technology, love technology, I'm a geek. If you got all this stuff, you need to also incorporate some of the stuff you need them to read. And I'll give you another example. My youngest grandson, he's 9 now. This happened about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And my youngest granddaughter is 3.5. So this is about, she was maybe a year or less. And he had his Xbox over here. And he said, Nana, can I read to Anna? And I said, yeah. And so he grabbed a book and started reading to his cousin who wasn't even a year old. You said, well, why is that a big deal? Because what I'm telling you works. His mother read, and guess what? He's reading to his cousin who don't even know what the words mean, but he knows the power of reading. And the phenomenal piece is he put the Xbox down and came to me and asked could he grab that book and read it to her. So what I'm saying to you is they will make a choice when they're hungry and they've discovered their appetite for reading to do it all the time, and you won't have to force them. You won't have to make them eat peas because you found out what they like. They won't spit it out. They'll ask for more. And you know what the powerful piece is? I realized the opportunity for me to support him, so I listened to him read to her. And I said, oh, that's good, Lil. You did a really good job. And I said, but guess what? Nana's going to show you how to do this piece, and I'm going to show you how to do it differently. I said, so especially because she's little, you want to make sure it's always exciting, and you want to make sure that you add stuff to it. I said, so now I'm going to show you how to add expression and enthusiasm so you can keep her wanting to listen. And so I read the same piece over, and I saw his eyes get big, like, oh, yeah. Nana, that's good. Yeah. I said, well, Lil, you practice. Let me hear you read it. And then he read it with excitement. It wasn't the monotone. And he read it with enthusiasm. He saw her face light up. And so it's transferable. Go to the next slide. So this is the part of the reset. What they see is what you're going to get. And so do they see you eat your vegetables? Do they see you eat the right foods? Do they see you practice what you preach and the routines that you want them to have, but you don't clean up behind yourself when you go in the kitchen? So what they see is what you get. And you say, well, yo, what does that mean? If they don't see you reading, the likelihood that they'll read is a lot less. They have to see you read. And I know that you may not be able to read that well, or maybe this is painful because you don't know what your appetite for reading is. Discover it together. Find out and figure it out together. Go on this journey together. Test the buffets of different pieces and different parts of what you might like that maybe somebody missed a mark with you. So this is your opportunity to get it right. Why is this so important? Because guess what? If you don't do it, who will? If you don't do it, who will? Have you not seen or learned that the schools, the teachers, you can't, but if y'all was teaching them something, no. Guess what? For the first time in history, your kids are home with you. And you have an opportunity to see really what's going on with them and to do a reset. I know you're tired. I know this has been too much. I'm on the verge of tears just talking about it. I know you're done. Take today, look at your notes, find the money, borrow it, and go get some books and start over. Not just for your kids, but start over for yourself. For all the people who miss it and didn't invest in you, don't miss this. For the first time in history, your kids have been home with you. Do you know I would have traded anything to not be working 2 or 3 jobs and have that time with my kids? To see more of them, to discover all of the hidden things I had to find out in the car or when I was tired. Look at this differently. Look at it as an opportunity to put in them everything they're going to need for the rest of their life. And guess what? You also get to fall in love with them again while you're doing it. Take it as look at it differently. It's everybody's job that your kids do well, but it's your job first. So what they see is what you get. And if you don't figure out how to support them now, guess what? They'll be living in your basement when they're 35 later on. They'll be signing contracts and they'll be getting into situations where they're going to be held accountable legally because they didn't understand it. That won't be enough. They'll not do good in math because they can't read. So this is a reset. We are in the emergency room, and you got to figure out how to get them out of there and get them in recovery. But it starts with you. So what they see is what you're going to get. So what are we going to show them after today? And it's going to take a minute to digest this because I know you're tired. I know some of y'all have checked out. And I know some of you said, well, they'll just repeat next year. Don't give up on your babies just because somebody gave up on you. Or just because you got tired. Tired ain't good enough. You cannot go to your jobs and give them 100% and keep coming home and giving your babies fumes and your family. That is your legacy. They are the reason why you go to work. They're the reason why you get up. If you say, well, yo, I'm not working right now, I'm waiting on my unemployment, get up every day like you got a job. Get up every day like you're going somewhere because your kids are watching you. And if they don't see you be resilient, if they don't see you get off your knuckles, guess what? They're going to struggle too when trouble hits them. Get up every day. Put your tie on to all the gentlemen. And if you got a husband, encourage him to do it. And get up, comb your hair, take your bonnets off like you are going somewhere. Be prepared for what you expect so that your children will do the same. Next slide. Don't y'all tell nobody I cried. I want you to visit our booth. I'm going to put in the chat a couple things. We are giving, anybody who know I'm a giver. And we're going to be giving away some gift cards. Today, I got a quick quiz that you get to do. And everybody can be a winner. Nobody has to not be able to get it done. It's 3 questions. And I made it easy for you if you were listening to me today. 3 questions. And your name will go into the raffle for a gift card and for packets that will meet people and drop them off to you. That'll make it a lot easier for you guys at home with your kids. I'm also going to put in the chat, and all of this, visit our booth because all of this is at our booths as well. The district that I serve, we work with parents as early as preschool to make sure that they're ready to learn, that everybody knows that college isn't just a dream or something they see on TV, that college can be a reality. And we work as early as preschool, making sure that they're ready and they deserve to have an opportunity to go to college. And we also make sure that it's paid for. So I'm going to put that in the chat too. If you want to click on that. As well. And if you can go to the next slide, Caleb, you guys can click on that first link that I did, and you can actually start filling that out while we're talking. You can also meet me at the booth. I'll be at our booth from 12 to 12:30 just for you all. So let me get the link. I'm going to make it easy because I know some people are challenged when it comes to technology, and I'm sensitive to that. So I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for you so you don't have to miss out. So I'm going to put in the chat as well the Zoom link, and it's also showing in our virtual booth where you can be there and we can be together from 12 to 12:30, because I know some of you want to verbally engage. You got some thoughts, comments, and feedback. If you can put in the chat for me your thoughts, comments, and feedback about today, how you feel about it, did this help you? That would be great. If it's something that stood out to you, that would also be great. And you want to go to the next slide again? Thank you. And I cannot thank you all enough for being a part of this conversation with us, for showing up today. I'm telling you firsthand, it's never too late. I could go on and tell you so many different stories about families that I've worked with. I was transparent with you all about my own personal family, but I know all of you got somebody who you have influenced or who you can influence. And guess what? If your kids get it, your cousins, their sisters, their brothers will get it, and nobody gets left behind. So when you get the books, don't just do it for your kids, but do it for other kids as well. And thank you guys again for being with me on today, for coming to the virtual conference. I know this is a different platform and it was a struggle for some, but I hope that this was beneficial to you. And again, please feel free to put in the chat your thoughts, comments, and feedback about today if it's something you want me to know before they close out our session. And I know some of y'all didn't think I would end on time, but boom, I be watching the clock. I be watching the clock. Y'all make me want to sing a song, but I'm not going to do that. So put your thoughts, comments, and feedback in the chat for me, if you will. And I got a text from Caleb. I'll check that out because I don't know why that didn't work. And it might be because it's set to start at 12:30 and I'm not in. 12 o'clock and I'm not in yet to start it. So I will double check that for you as well. And if you give me 1 second, I'll do it now. Yep, that was the reason, Caleb, because it hasn't started yet.
Okay.
Because when I clicked on it, it opened.
Okay.
So I'll copy and paste it one more time just to be sure for you. Thoughts, comments, and feedback about today, please feel free to put it in the chat. And I'm going to text this link one more time. Again, it did work when I just did it. It might be because it doesn't start until 12 o'clock. But you can always click on it when you go into our virtual booth. Thank you, Israel. And yes, Nicole, this was recorded. Thank you, Raven, Tiffany. I'm glad you learned something. You missed a little bit, but it's never too late. You do definitely want to look at the recording so you can keep up with everything. Thank you, Lily. And Caleb, I was watching my time. I don't know, do we go back into the room right now, or did everybody click on the link to do the survey quiz, the literacy quiz, the 3 questions, so that I can make sure you guys are part of the gift card giveaway?
Yes, the closing session is started now.
Okay, so we go to the closing session. Thank you all, and I will see you all back in the main room, and I will see you at 12 o'clock in our virtual booth. Have a great day, and thanks for your feedback, and thanks for being with us on today. We appreciate you guys. Oh, Olivia, thank you.